She was invisible for 6 years, serving people who never saw her, smiling through pain nobody noticed. Then one night, a woman in a $30,000 dress slapped her across the face in front of everyone. And the man who witnessed it? He was the boy she'd saved 15 years ago. The hungry kid she'd shared her lunch with. The one everyone said would be nothing. He's a billionaire now. And what he did next made the entire restaurant go silent. This is the story of how one act of cruelty became the doorway to freedom. How the worst moment of someone's life became their greatest triumph. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll understand why kindness always wins, even when it looks like it's losing. This is about dignity, about worth, about refusing to stay invisible. And it all started with a slap that echoed around the world. Welcome to the story room. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Let me tell you about being invisible. Not the fantasy kind where you can't be seen. The real kind, where you're standing right there, working, breathing, existing, but people look right through you like you're made of glass. That was Isabel Carter's life. 26 years old, working at Azure, the most expensive restaurant in Miami. The kind of place where celebrities proposed, where business deals worth millions happened over dessert, where the napkins cost more than most people's shirts. Isabel had been there for 6 years. 6 years of carrying heavy trays, smiling at people who snapped their fingers at her, pretending she didn't hear the cruel comments, the casual cruelty that rich people thought was normal. But she did it because she had to. Her father was sick. Pancreatic cancer, the kind that doesn't go away. The kind that costs everything you have and then demands more. Her younger brother, Tyler, was in college, studying to be a doctor. Someone had to hold their family together. So, Isabel woke up every morning at 5. She made breakfast for her dad, helped him take his medications, then took 2 buses to Azure. She worked 10-hour shifts, sometimes 12. Then she went home, helped her dad again, paid whatever bills she could, and fell into bed exhausted. Day after day after day. The manager at Azure was a man named Richard. He was the kind of person who enjoyed having power over others. He yelled. He threatened. He fired people for the smallest mistakes just to remind everyone else that he could. But Isabel never complained. Couldn't afford to. The tips at Azure were good enough to cover her dad's medication. Barely. She was always one disaster away from losing everything. On this particular evening in October, Richard gathered the staff in the back. His face was red with excitement and stress. Listen carefully, he barked. Tonight we're serving Julian Drake. Yes, the Julian Drake. The hotel mogul. He owns half the luxury properties in this country. He's bringing his fiancée. If anything goes wrong, you're all fired. Understood? Everyone nodded nervously. Julian Drake. Isabel had seen him on magazine covers. The man who'd built a hotel empire from nothing, worth billions. The kind of wealth that seemed impossible, unreal. But Isabel didn't care about fame. She cared about the tip. A table like that could mean 2 months of her dad's treatment. It could mean not having to choose between electricity and groceries. When Julian Drake walked through the doors that evening, the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath. He was tall, maybe 38, in a perfectly tailored navy suit. Dark hair touched with gray at the temples. Tired eyes that suggested he carried burdens nobody saw. But the woman on his arm commanded all the attention. Her name was Veronica Sterling. She moved like royalty. Her dress was covered in crystals that caught every light, probably worth more than Isabel would earn in 5 years. Her blonde hair was pulled back severely. Her face was beautiful but cold, like a sculpture carved from marble. Isabel was assigned to their table. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the menus. This was the biggest table of her entire career. She could almost see her dad's medication bottles, could almost hear the click of the hospital machines. This tip could change everything. She took a deep breath and approached. "Good evening," Isabel said softly, warmly despite her nerves. "Welcome to Azure. My name is Isabel, and I'll be—" "Champagne," Veronica interrupted without looking up from her phone. "Cristal." The 2008 And make sure it's properly chilled. Last time I was here, it was practically room temperature. Of course, ma'am, Isabel replied quietly. She glanced at Julian. He gave her a brief nod, something almost apologetic in his eyes. The next 90 minutes were torture. Veronica sent back her appetizer 4 times. Too cold. Too hot. Wrong presentation. Not enough garnish. She complained about everything. The lighting was wrong. The music was too loud. The air conditioning was too strong. Through it all, Isabel smiled. Apologized. Fixed every problem. Because that's what invisible people do. They make everything work while nobody notices. They carry the weight while everyone else enjoys the meal. Julian barely spoke. He drank his scotch slowly, staring out the window at the Miami skyline. He looked like a man trapped in a beautiful cage. At one point, Isabel brought fresh bread. As she set it down, Julian looked up at her. Really looked at her. For just a moment, their eyes met. Something flickered across his face. Recognition? Confusion? It was gone before she could identify it. Then Veronica snapped her fingers. Actually snapped them like Isabel was a dog. Water. Now. And this time, make sure there's exactly 4 ice cubes. Not 3. Not 5. 4. Can you count to 4? Isabel's cheeks burned with humiliation. But she nodded. Right away, ma'am. As she walked back to the service station, her phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Dad's pain is worse. Doctor wants to adjust medication. New prescription is $400. Do you have it? Isabel's heart sank. $400. She'd been saving, but she was still short. She typed back quickly. I'll get it. Don't worry. She had no idea how, but she'd find a way. She always did. Because that's what invisible people do. They carry burdens nobody else can see. They solve problems nobody else knows about. They survive. Little did Isabel know, in just a few minutes, her invisible life was about to explode into something she could never have imagined. The slap was coming. And with it, everything would change. The main course arrived on schedule. Isabel carried the plates with the practiced grace of someone who'd done this thousands of times. Veronica had ordered the most expensive item on the menu, Maine lobster prepared with imported European butter and herbs that cost more per ounce than gold. Isabel set the plate down gently. Your lobster, ma'am. Please be careful. The plate is very hot. Veronica didn't acknowledge her. She was too busy photographing her food from every possible angle. Flash after flash. She made Isabel stand there, holding a small lamp to improve the lighting. Other diners were staring. Isabel felt her face burning with embarrassment. Move left, Veronica commanded. No, my left. Do you not understand basic directions? I apologize, Isabel whispered, adjusting her position. Finally, after what felt like forever, Veronica put down her phone. She picked up her fork, took one small bite, and immediately pushed the plate away. This is completely unacceptable, she announced loudly. Every nearby table turned to look. This lobster is overcooked. The sauce is too heavy. Take it back and tell your chef he should be ashamed. Isabel's stomach dropped. The lobster looked perfect, but that didn't matter. Of course, ma'am. I'll speak with the chef right away. I don't want you to speak with anyone. Veronica's voice rose sharply. I want you to understand something. Do you know who I am? Do you know who we are? She gestured dramatically at Julian, who was rubbing his temples like he had a terrible headache. Yes, ma'am, Isabel said quietly. I understand. You understand nothing, Veronica snapped. People like you will never understand people like us. You're here to serve. That's all you're good for. So serve properly or find another job where mediocrity is acceptable. The words hit Isabel like physical blows. The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Even the kitchen sounds seemed to fade. Everyone was watching. Julian finally spoke, his voice low. Veronica, that's enough. She's just doing her job. Don't you dare defend the help, Veronica hissed at him. You're always too soft. That's your problem. You let people walk all over you. Isabel stood frozen. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. But she had a job to do. A dad who needed medicine. A brother counting on her. "I'll bring you something else," Isabel said, her voice barely audible. "Perhaps the—" "I don't want something else," Veronica interrupted coldly. "I want wine. That bottle." She pointed at the most expensive red wine on the menu. "Pour it. And don't mess it up." Isabel nodded. She went to the wine storage and carefully retrieved the bottle. It was worth $3,000. This single bottle of wine cost more than 8 months of her dad's medication. The thought made her dizzy. She approached the table carefully. Julian was staring out the window, looking miserable. Veronica was on her phone, typing furiously, probably posting complaints to her hundreds of thousands of followers. Isabel began to pour the wine.
Slowly, carefully.
The dark red liquid flowed smoothly into Veronica's glass. Then Veronica moved. Without warning, without even looking, Veronica threw her arm up in a dramatic gesture. "I just don't understand why you won't buy me the penthouse in Manhattan, Julian. It's not like you can't afford." Her arm struck Isabel's wrist. Hard. Everything happened in slow motion. The bottle tipped. The wine arced through the air like a crimson wave. It splashed directly across Veronica's chest, soaking into her crystal-covered dress. The entire restaurant went silent. Not the polite quiet from before. This was the silence of shock. The silence before an explosion. Isabel stood frozen, the nearly empty bottle still in her hand. Her mind was screaming.
The dress. The job.
The medication. Everything. "I'm so sorry," Isabel gasped, reaching for a napkin. "It was an accident. I didn't mean—" "Don't touch me." Veronica's scream could have shattered the windows. She leaped from her chair, knocking it backward with a crash. "You stupid, clumsy idiot. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I'm so sorry," Isabel repeated, tears forming. "You moved your arm, ma'am." "Are you blaming me?" Veronica's face twisted with rage. She stepped closer, invading Isabel's space. "You spill wine on my Valentino dress, and you have the audacity to blame me?" "No, I just meant—" Isabel's voice cracked. "I don't care what you meant." Veronica shrieked. Her face was red, mascara starting to run with angry tears. "This dress cost $30,000. $30,000. You probably don't earn that in a year." Isabel stood trembling. She could feel every eye in the restaurant on her. She could see Richard at the kitchen door, his face pale with fury. She was going to be fired. Her dad's medicine. Tyler's tuition. The rent. Everything was about to come crashing down. "Please," Isabel whispered. "I'm so sorry. I'll pay for the cleaning." "You'll pay?" Veronica laughed, cruel and harsh. "With what? Your pathetic tips? You're nothing. Nothing. You're just a stupid waitress who's too incompetent to even pour wine properly." Julian stood up. "Veronica, stop this. That's enough." "And no, it's not enough." Veronica spun toward him. "I want her fired. I want her arrested. I want—" Then she turned back to Isabel. Her hand rose up. And before anyone could react, before Isabel could even blink, Veronica's palm connected with Isabel's face. Slap. The sound echoed through azure like a gunshot. Isabel's head snapped to the side. Pain exploded across her cheek. She stumbled backward, her hand flying to her face. The restaurant wasn't just silent anymore. It was frozen, like time itself had stopped. Isabel stood there, tears streaming down her face, holding her burning cheek. She waited for Richard to fire her. She waited for security to throw her out. She waited for her world to end. But the first person to move wasn't Richard. It wasn't security. It was Julian Drake. And what he did next would change everything. Julian Drake moved with deliberate calm. He placed his scotch glass on the table so carefully it made no sound. Then he stood up, all 6 feet 3 inches of him, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. He didn't look at Veronica. Not yet. First, he looked at Isabel. Really looked at her. His blue-gray eyes scanned her face, the red handprint forming on her pale cheek. the tears streaming down. The way she was trembling but still standing, still trying to maintain some dignity even as her world collapsed. Then Julian reached into his jacket. He pulled out a crisp white handkerchief and held it out to Isabel. "Are you all right?" His voice was soft but carried across the silent restaurant. Isabel stared at the handkerchief, confused. Was this a trick? Some kind of test? She took it with shaking fingers. I'm fine, sir," she whispered. "I'm so sorry about the dress. I'll pay for it somehow. I promise." "Stop apologizing," Julian said firmly. He turned to face Veronica. "You need to leave." Veronica's mouth fell open.
What? What did you just say to me?
"I said you need to leave," Julian repeated, his voice louder now, carrying to every corner of Azure. "This is over. We're over." The restaurant erupted in whispers. People were pulling out phones. This was about to be everywhere. "You can't be serious." Veronica laughed nervously, glancing around at all the watching eyes. "Julian, everyone's watching. Stop making a scene. We can discuss this at home." "No," Julian said simply. "We're not going home. There is no home. Not anymore." He reached into his jacket again. This time he pulled out a small velvet box. Veronica's eyes lit up immediately, her anger vanishing like smoke. "Oh, Julian," she breathed, her whole demeanor changing. "You brought the ring? The upgrade we talked about." Julian opened the box. It was empty. Veronica's face fell. I don't understand." "I returned the ring 4 days ago," Julian said coldly. "I was planning to end this tonight. Privately. Quietly. I was going to be respectful about it." He gestured toward Isabel. "But after what you just did, you don't deserve respect. You can't break up with me." Veronica's voice rose to a shriek. "The wedding is in 8 weeks. The invitations are sent. Do you know how much my father spent on the venue? Do you know who I am?" "I know exactly who you are," Julian said, his voice like ice. "I've known for months. I've watched you belittle waiters, scream at drivers, mock my assistants behind their backs. I told myself you were just stressed. That wedding planning was hard." He paused. "But tonight you crossed a line. You hit someone. You assaulted someone who was just trying to do her job." He looked back at Isabel, who was still standing there in shock, clutching the handkerchief to her burning cheek. "What's your full name?" he asked her gently. Isabel's voice was barely a whisper. Isabel Carter." Julian froze. His eyes widened. He stepped closer, studying her face more carefully, looking past the tears, past the exhaustion, past the pain. "Carter," he repeated slowly. "Isabel Carter. From Riverside High School?" Isabel blinked, confused. "Yes, but how did you—" "Oh my God." Julian's voice was barely audible. And if you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to subscribe, because this is only the beginning. A strange expression crossed his face, recognition mixed with disbelief, shame mixed with wonder. "Isabel, it's me. Julian Hayes from school." Isabel stared at him. Julian Hayes. The name hit her like a wave of memory. The quiet boy who used to sit alone in the library. The one who wore the same worn sneakers every day. The one other kids bullied because his mom couldn't afford the right clothes. The one Isabel had shared her lunch with every single day for 3 years. "Jules?" Isabel whispered. "Little Jules Hayes? But you didn't have money," Julian finished, a sad smile on his face. "No, I didn't. I barely had anything. Until you." The restaurant was completely silent now. Even Veronica had stopped shrieking, staring between them in confusion and growing horror. Julian turned to address the entire room. His voice carried authority now, the voice of a man who'd built an empire. "This woman," he pointed at Isabel, "is the reason I'm standing here today. When I was 15 years old, I was nobody. Less than nobody. I was the poor kid. The one everyone ignored or mocked. I went to school hungry most days because my mom was working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads." He looked at Isabel, his eyes shining with emotion. "But Isabel saw me. She didn't just see me. She SAT with me. She shared her food with me even though she didn't have much either. When a teacher accused me of cheating on an exam because no poor kid could be that smart, Isabel marched into the principal's office and fought for me. She got me into the advanced programs. She tutored me for free. She believed in me when nobody else did. Isabel felt tears streaming down her face. She'd almost forgotten those days. Or maybe she'd never realized how much those small acts of kindness had meant. I spent 12 years looking for you, Julian continued. After my first hotel opened, I hired investigators. But you'd moved. Changed your phone number. I thought I'd lost you forever. He gestured around the restaurant. And then tonight I walk in here and there you are. Serving people who treat you like dirt. Getting abused by someone like her. He turned back to Veronica, his face hardening. You hit the woman who saved my life. The woman who made me who I am. So yes, Veronica, we're done. Security will escort you out. And if you even think about pressing charges or causing trouble, I have 70 witnesses who just watched you assault someone, including about 30 people with their phones recording. Veronica looked around wildly. She saw all the phones pointed at her. Saw the expressions on people's faces, not sympathy but disgust. Her face crumbled. You'll regret this, she hissed at Julian. My father will destroy you. He has connections. He has power. Your father, Julian interrupted calmly, is currently being investigated by the FBI. They received an anonymous tip about 2 hours ago. Something about hotel development fraud and bribery. I imagine he has bigger problems right now than your broken engagement. Veronica's face went white. 2 security guards appeared. They took her gently by the arms and led her toward the exit. Her protests faded as the door closed behind her. Julian turned back to Isabel. The entire restaurant was still watching, but he didn't seem to care. Isabel, he said softly, take off the apron. What? Isabel's voice shook. Am I fired?
No.
Julian smiled. You're promoted. Richard's office was nothing like the elegant restaurant below. While Azure was all glass and ocean views and luxury, up here it was dark wood and leather. It smelled like cigars and secrets and old money. Isabel sat in one of the leather chairs, still in shock. Her cheek still burned where Veronica had hit her. The handkerchief Julian had given her was clutched in her hands, now stained with her tears. Julian sat across from her. He'd loosened his tie and rolled up his sleeves. He looked more human now, less like the billionaire from magazines and more like the boy she used to know. I don't understand what's happening, Isabel said quietly. Promoted? Julian, I can't be promoted. I'm a waitress. I don't have qualifications. I barely finished high school because I had to work to help support my family. Julian leaned forward. Isabel, do you know why I spent 12 years looking for you? She shook her head. Because I owed you a debt, he said simply. Not money. Something bigger. You gave me hope when I had none. You made me believe I could be more than the poor kid everyone pitied. Every hotel I've built, every success I've had, it all started with you believing in me. I was just being kind, Isabel whispered. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't, Julian said, his voice hard. Nobody else did. Everyone else looked at me and saw nothing. You looked at me and saw potential. He stood and walked to the window, overlooking the restaurant below. Do you know what I've built, Isabel? Really built. You created the Drake Hotel Group, Isabel said. Luxury properties all over the world. I created an empire, Julian corrected. 68 five-star hotels across 23 countries. The company is worth $7 billion. I own properties, investments, businesses. He turned to look at her, including this restaurant, as of 30 minutes ago. Isabel's eyes widened. You bought Azure? Just now? While we were sitting here? One phone call, Julian said. The owner has been trying to sell for months. He was thrilled to get my offer. The paperwork will take a few days, but it's done. He smiled. And my first act as owner is to fire Richard. Richard? Isabel repeated. Your manager, Julian said. Or rather, your former manager. He's been embezzling from this place for years. I had my people do a quick audit while we've been talking. Fake supplier invoices, inflated expenses. The restaurant should be making triple what it's reporting. Isabel felt dizzy. Everything was happening so fast. But if you fire Richard, who will run the restaurant? You will, Julian said simply. Julian, I can't. Yes, you can, he interrupted. Isabel, you know this place better than anyone. You know what customers want. You know which suppliers are good and which are scams. You know which staff actually work and which ones hide in the back. But I don't know how to run a business, Isabel protested. I don't know about budgets, and I have accountants who know about budgets, Julian said. I have advisors who can teach you anything you need to learn. What I don't have is someone I trust. Someone with integrity. Someone who won't steal from me or lie to me. He knelt in front of her chair, looking up into her eyes. I trust you, Isabel. I trusted you when I was 15. I trust you now. Isabel felt tears welling up again. My dad, she whispered. Julian, my dad is sick. He needs medicine tomorrow. I was counting on tonight's tips to pay for it. If I take time off to learn how to run this place. Julian pulled out his phone. He dialed a number and put it on speaker. Dr. Morrison, it's Julian Drake. Yes, I know it's late. I need you to make a house call tonight. He looked at Isabel. What's your address? Isabel gave him the address of their small apartment, her voice shaking. Yes, that's the one, Julian said into the phone. Patient name is Thomas Carter, Isabel whispered. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. Thomas Carter. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3. Julian repeated. I want a full examination. I want the best treatment plan available. Cost is irrelevant. Bill everything to my personal account. You'll be there in 30 minutes? Excellent. He hung up. Isabel was crying now, but not from sadness. From relief. From overwhelming, crushing relief. Dr. Morrison is the best oncologist in Florida, Julian said gently. He'll take care of your dad. And, Isabel, I'm not just paying for tomorrow's medicine. I'm covering all his medical expenses. Everything. For as long as he needs it. I can't let you do that, Isabel protested weakly. It's too much. I can't accept. It's not charity, Julian said firmly. It's a signing bonus. You're going to work hard. You're going to transform this restaurant. You're going to make it better than it's ever been. And in return, you get a real salary, benefits, and the security to know your family is taken care of. He smiled. Besides, you shared your sandwiches with me for 3 years. I think I can cover some medical bills. Isabel laughed through her tears. It was a broken, exhausted sound, but it was genuine. For the first time in 6 years, she felt like she could breathe. But Julian's expression turned serious. There's something else you need to know, Isabel. Something about why Veronica was really here tonight. Isabel wiped her eyes. What do you mean? Julian walked to Richard's desk. He picked up a folder that had been sitting there. I had my people look into this place's finances. The restaurant should be profitable, but it's barely staying afloat. Do you know why? Isabel shook her head. Because Richard has been running a money laundering scheme, Julian said. He's been working with Veronica's father, Robert Sterling. They've been funneling illegal money through fake contracts. The Sterlings would report inflated expenses. Richard would confirm the invoices. They'd split the excess. Isabel felt sick. How much? About $3 million over the past 4 years, Julian said grimly. Veronica knew. That's why she was so confident tonight. She thought she could do anything here because her family essentially owned the place through Richard. What happens now? Isabel asked. Julian smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. Now we fix it. Together. For months later, Isabel stood in front of Azure and barely recognized it. The old, pretentious sign was gone. In its place was something simpler, more welcoming. The table. It was opening night of the newly reimagined restaurant. The lines stretched around the block. Not because people wanted to see where a viral video happened, but because word had spread about something special. Isabel wore a simple navy dress and comfortable shoes. Her choice. Not some stiff uniform. Her hair was down, soft. She looked professional but real.
Human.
Tyler stood beside her, beaming with pride. Their dad was there too, in a wheelchair but smiling. Dr. Morrison's treatment had worked miracles. He still had difficult days, but he was alive. Improving. Are you nervous? Tyler asked. Isabel smiled, terrified. You're going to be amazing, her dad said, squeezing her hand. You've always been amazing. The doors opened. The first customers filed in, and Isabel felt her heart soar. This was really happening. The restaurant looked completely different. Gone were the cold marble and the intimidating atmosphere. The new design was warm, inviting wooden tables, soft lighting, art from local Miami artists on the walls. But the biggest change was the staff. They moved with confidence now. They smiled real smiles. They weren't terrified anymore. Isabel had kept most of the original team, the ones who'd been good but beaten down by Richard's cruelty. She'd let go of the lazy ones, the mean ones, and she'd hired new people. Single parents, veterans, people rebuilding their lives after setbacks. She paid them properly, gave them health care, treated them like human beings. Revolutionary concepts in the restaurant industry. The chef, a woman named Rosa, who'd been stuck as a line cook under Richard, had completely redesigned the menu. No more pretentious fusion nobody understood. Now they served food that actually tasted good. Comfort food elevated. Simple ingredients done perfectly. As Isabel walked through the dining room, she saw Julian sitting at a corner table. He caught her eye and raised his glass in a silent toast. He'd been true to his word. He owned the building, covered major expenses, but he let Isabel run everything. He never interfered. He trusted her. That trust had terrified her at first. She'd spent 4 months working 16-hour days, learning everything. Financial statements, supplier negotiations, how to lead without being a tyrant. She'd made mistakes. Lots of them. But Julian had been patient. Every successful person has failed more times than unsuccessful people have tried, he told her once. The difference is we keep going. Now, on opening night, Isabel felt something she hadn't felt in years.
Pride.
A waiter approached her. Carlos, a former construction worker who'd been laid off and needed a fresh start. Isabel, table 9 is asking for you. Isabel walked over. An elderly couple sat there, both dressed nicely but not expensively. Is everything all right? Isabel asked warmly. The woman dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. We just wanted to thank you. We read about what you've done here. We're both retired teachers. We could never afford places like this used to be. But tonight we could. And the food. She smiled. The food was perfect. Isabel felt her throat tighten. Thank you. That means everything. As the night went on, Isabel realized something profound. She'd spent 6 years being invisible, serving people who looked through her, accepting cruelty because she thought she had no choice. She believed the lie that people like her, struggling people, poor people, had to accept whatever scraps were thrown their way. But that was wrong. She had value. She had dignity. She had worth. She'd always had them. She just hadn't believed it. Around 10 p.m., there was a commotion at the door. Her security guard approached quietly. Someone's trying to get in. Says she knows you. Veronica Sterling. Isabel's blood ran cold. She hadn't seen Veronica since that night. She knew the woman had been arrested, though her father's lawyers had gotten her out quickly. Should I turn her away? The guard asked.
Isabel thought about it.
Part of her wanted to say yes. Wanted to make Veronica feel rejected, humiliated. But that would make her no better than Veronica had been. No, Isabel said quietly. Let her in. Treat her like any other customer. Veronica entered, looking different. Her designer clothes were still expensive, but less showy. Her makeup was lighter. She looked smaller somehow. Humbled. She walked up to Isabel, eyes downcast. I know I have no right to be here, she said quietly. I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. What I did was unforgivable. Isabel studied her face. She looked for manipulation, for fake tears. But all she saw was a broken woman trying to figure out who she was without money and status. "Thank you for the apology," Isabel said calmly. "I accept it." Veronica's eyes widened. "You do?"
Yes.
"Because I'm not going to carry anger anymore. I'm free of you, Veronica. Completely free." Veronica nodded slowly and turned to leave. "Veronica," Isabel called. She turned back. "If you want to stay for dinner, you can. Just like anyone else. No special treatment. But you're welcome here." Veronica's eyes filled with tears. She nodded and quietly took a seat. Later, as Isabel was closing up, Julian approached her. "You didn't have to let her stay." "I know," Isabel said. "But that's the point of this place. The table. Everyone's welcome. Rich, poor, kind, struggling. Everyone deserves a seat. Everyone deserves to be seen." Julian smiled. "You're going to change the world, Isabel." Isabel looked around at her restaurant, at her staff laughing together, at her dad and brother waiting to walk home with her, at the success she'd built from hard work and refusing to give up. "Maybe," she said, "but for now, I'm just happy to have changed my own life." As they locked up and stepped into. Thanks for your watching. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to the Story Room for meaningful stories that inspire and teach life lessons.